listening to the Paracasual Destiny Podcast, Episode 30. Hello, everyone. Anyone out there who's listening, this is Episode 30 of the Paracasual Destiny Podcast. I am Sooltime, and I am joined by some shiny, happy people today. Salliebug. Salliebug, are you there?
I'm here.
How you
Good morning,
feeling?
everybody.
How you feeling?
I am feeling great. I've got some delicious coffee in me. It's a beautiful, sunny, warm day here in Maine. And I'm just going to take it because it's not going to be warm.
Sounds like you're ready to go.
We're going to enjoy the day. Enjoy what the powers that be give us.
All right. And we also have
The
Romance
architect.
Girl joining us. Romance Girl, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us once again. You ready to do a Destiny-themed podcast today?
I think so, now that I've had a few sips of coffee.
Yeah. And full disclosure, we thought we were live and we weren't. And so we're repeating the intro all over again. And the challenge we gave ourselves was to do it verbatim how we did the first time. But I'm already off script because obviously I didn't say this on the first introduction run. But I did say this. I said, last but not least, Green Stego is with us in the house. How are you, Green Stego?
Hello. I am doing just fine. I've got a pep in my step and a shine on my shoe today.
Here's Twilight.
Yes.
Pep in his step and a shine on his shoe. Yeah, I bet your shoes are reflecting the blue sky of this beautiful morning, right?
Oh, we got clear as day down here in Texas.
Nice. That's good to hear. So I think the table's set for a fantastic broadcast today because we've got not only the four of us, and like I said before, the core reason we do this podcast, one of the core reasons, I mean, we love the game and all, but it's an opportunity for us to check in with each other, at least on a bi-weekly basis. So we don't, and that's always fun. And we also have a full chat house, and by full I mean the Funnybone has joined us, and yeah, welcome Funnybone. Feel free to hop in on the chat anytime if you have any ideas. And before we get too far into this, I also want to give a shout out to Pcarlyle, who reached out to us. I heard him recently on. He was a recent guest on The Last Word with Ebontis Incognito, and shout out to those guys for all the work that they do. Anyway, Pcarlyle, and we'll put all his appropriate links in our descriptions, champion of all things good about the Destiny community. Thank you so much for reaching out. He likes what we do. Which is a bit of a puzzler for me, but we will take what we can get from that. He streams on Twitch, and he also hosts his own podcast called the Last City Radio Podcast. So encourage everybody to go out and check out our friend Pcarlyle on
Definitely
those
check that one out.
on those media sources for sure. So I have not been playing a lot of Destiny recently. I've been doing some other things, and but these podcasts we do always reinvigorate me. You know, I'm trying to keep an ear to the ground in the Twitterverse and YouTubes and those things, but I am going to be relying heavily on my co-host today for any game knowledge that has taken place in the recent 2 weeks. What's been going on? Should we dive into the TWAB from April 1st? Which
Sure.
would be
I think so.
It's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start. So let's go. Without further ado, let's go ahead and do that. Let's pull it up. This week at Bungie, it's April Fool's, so you had to approach this one, of course, with a grain of salt. It being April Fool's Day and all. This was the one where they let loose some modifications. They talk about the proving grounds a little bit, and yes, they introduced this concept that's coming in season 14, which will be the next season. When does that occur? Sometime in May, right? So we have to
May 11th.
May 11th. Thank you. Geez, somebody knows about
1 month.
It. Yeah. With the return of Ada 1 to the tower in season 14, they're introducing small quality of life upgrades. I don't think they're so small, actually, to a couple of the tower vendors. First, in addition, being the primary vendor associated with the upcoming transmog system, also known as Armor Synthesis. Now, get that one through your head. Armor Synthesis. We may no longer call it transmog. Ada 1 will become the vendor who delivers a variety of armor-focused items and upgrades. Each day, she's going to sell one randomly chosen armor mod from the armor slot, helmet, gauntlets, etc., and one randomly chosen combat-style armor mod, from the Charge with Light Warmind cell types. Should make it easier for players who missed these in the past to get their hands on them. So she's kind of taking over Banshee duties here, it sounds like.
Is this increasing this, though? It sounds like it's the same, right? Is Banshee on a daily rotation?
Yeah, those change daily. On a weekly basis, Ada 1 will sell one armor set randomly chosen from the world loot pool with a stat roll that also changes on a weekly basis. Guarantee it's going to be below 60, I'm guessing, right?
With how it has been going.
Yeah. And finally, 801 will also sell armor upgrade materials, the upgrade modules, enhancement prisms, ascendant shards, and same way Banshee 44 does it right now. So she's taking on armor responsibilities. What's Banshee 44 going to do? He's getting a few revisions in his inventory as well. Gunsmith will no longer sell armor mods, but will retain the rest of the items that he currently sells. Banshee 44 is going to be selling a selection of 6 weapons, randomly chosen from weapons in the world loot pool, with perk rolls on each weapon that are randomly determined at the start of each week. This reminds me of D1, the old Armor Day, or no, what was it called?
Arms Day.
Arms Day. Armor Day.
Arms Day.
Yeah, Arms Day. So this is like kind of a return to this Arms Day concept in a way, right?
Yeah, except it will be with the reset instead of like its own reset.
Yeah, I think it was Wednesdays, if I remember, or something like that.
Yeah, like Weapon Wednesday.
Yeah. So each weekly reset, when you log in, you can head over to the tower to see what Gunsmith is selling, see what Banshee's selling, and maybe pick up a weapon you've been looking for with a role you're excited to use. So I like that. I like them bringing that sort of thing back. I like the concept of an armor set rotating weekly. It's, the game has been long overdue for vendor refresh, and they are definitely working on that with some of the retooling they did with the way rewards are doled out as you rank up with, say, Shax and the Drifter, right?
It feels like just like another level of upgrading to like these vendors, and making I especially like the Gunsmith one. I'm excited about Ada, but I don't exactly quite know how it's going to work until I get my dive into it. But I'm excited about the Gunsmith one because I don't just go to the Gunsmith and turn in all of my Gunsmith materials or whatever they're called to get random guns. So it'll be a way to look at what these guns are and just introduce me to them, or reintroduce me to them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
get me out of my comfort zone and say, like, instead of just using the same gun over and over again, that it'll just like go, oh yeah, there is this gun and it has here's some other perks that it could have that's maybe different than the one you have and you might enjoy it. I don't know. That's my take anyway.
Yeah, I think it'll be nice to just have another thing to look for at reset. Just add some depth to the game.
Thing to check.
Yeah, it's interesting how the game has integrated so much with social media and third-party tools, like where Xur or there's an automatic sort of bot Twitter account that sends out what mods Banshee is selling, and those things respond to this, and so old ones go away and new ones come out, and it's kind of fun. I'm one of those players who enjoys those tools. I don't know. I often say I don't know if I would be playing this game if it weren't for DIM, because I really enjoy interacting with that piece of software. It's really it's pretty robust. It updates almost every other day. It's amazing. And they're adding features, and sometimes they make things worse. But on average, they make them. It's always improving, and they have to respond to. And I've got to believe that at Bungie they talk about this, because what are we going to do about DIM if we make this change? How can we make it easier for those guys to adjust? How can we adjust the API to make things doable, at least, if not easier, for our third-party apps? I've got to believe they take that into account now when they're doing all this stuff. I mean, it's probably not priority.
Well, yeah, now in game, the vault, if you go to the vault, it actually suggests using third-party item managers.
That's pretty amazing. And I enjoy that. I enjoy trying out different apps that interact with the API, and just basically the whole content creation industry that's
very fortunate to have such a creative and talented community and player base.
Yeah.
Because I also rely heavily on all of those third-party apps.
Sure. I mean, it's not without its unintended consequences. I think some of the development decisions are driven by a small percentage of players who happen to be leaders in content creation, and what their desire is and what they're streaming. And that is probably a side effect that the studio has to balance and realize, well, yeah, we want to keep you streaming our game and have you enjoy it up at the level that you're playing with your 80-hour work week schedule on our game, but at the same time, you're not the majority of players, right? So we have to kind of accommodate that wide skill range, even though at the top it's only, I'd say 1 to 5% of the players at the top.
Right. The vocal minority.
Right, the vocal minority.
I feel like it's been more balanced in that regard lately.
Yeah.
I feel like there are definitely some content creators that, because especially the ones who are the interactive ones that are interacting with their chat, in that they know what their perspective is, but they also seek out the perspective of their own little communities and get the views of like the other players
feedback from their
feedback
followers.
from their communities, exactly, and bring that to the table when they're interacting with Bungie or making suggestions, that it's not just from their perspective. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's improved quite a bit over time. They realize that their perspective is, and they even say that, I realize my perspective is this because of how much I play, but what is yours? And they seek that information from the greater community.
Yeah. The next section of the TWAB talks about the Celerity and bottomless grief perks, of which I have no experience with, since I do not have those adept weapons that take those perks. And so
they were needed.
Excuse me?
They were needed, the buffs.
So they buffed them. Well, they talk about how players wanted it to be intrinsic on the adept weapon, so that those things weren't taking up a valuable perk spot, because I guess people weren't too into them. Anyway, so it sounds like they came to a compromise here. It says when they launched the Trials of Osiris, they wanted those origin-specific perks for the Trials weapons, like Celerity. Wildly powerful perk, he calls it. 100 plus 100 aim assist, handling and reload, plus reduced recoil and spread, with very low uptime. We intended this to be a great for clutch last guardian standing plays in Trials. And when it's active, it is very strong, but we found that a trigger condition that relies on failure generally feels pretty bad. Yeah, and the power it grants doesn't negate that feeling. Players never like betting against themselves or their teams. Not only that, so you almost like want to try the perk out. You have to have your buddies die on purpose almost just to get it procced, right? To test it out, or it's got to be really tough to test out how good it is, but that's setting yourself up for failure. Side note, this one we can relate to. The Deep Stone Crypt origin perks were well received. I don't know what they're talking about there.
They're saying that Celerity and Bottomless Grief are origin perks for I think Grandmaster and Trials. And those didn't quite work out how they wanted to, but the origin perks that you can only get from Deepstone Crypt did work out.
Yeah. Okay. So they say the idea still has legs. In Beyond Light, we introduced adept weapons to Trials. Wanted to try out a new system for aspirational weapons in a small set before rolling them out more broadly. They talk about their goals to give a tangible reward to aspire towards. Give a minor power boost and some gameplay customization options in the form of improved masterwork, granting +3 to all other stats. Wow. Do not make players who can't earn these weapons feel like they can't compete. And there's the rub, if you're going to keep this balanced, and they mentioned the Not Forgotten as sort of a example of how that doesn't, it was OP, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, because they don't want that sort of, what is it? The Recluse, Not Forgotten. What was the other? What's the grenade launcher?
Mountaintop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
they don't want that to happen again, right?
Like constantly, finding that balance of you want the players who are more on the average scale or below average scale to feel like they can actually go in and compete. And if you make these top end perks too over the top, then the people who are good, it's like that rich get richer again, right? That exactly. Whole conundrum of you have the top echelon who can go flawless, so they get the adept weapons, they get the adept perks, and so they get these perks and if they're too over the top, then other players, and let's face it, Trials has already struggled to keep a player base healthy, to have a healthy player base and enough people participating. And you don't want to decentivize people. It's since I'm never going flawless because I don't have the skill level to do it, then why bother going in there, because I'm going to be going against all these people with the adept weapons and these adept perks that I can't compete against. So they're trying to say, we want to give these great perks and we want to incentivize you to go in and want to get these perks, but we don't want them to be so amazing that if you can't get them based on your skill level, that you don't feel like you have any chance of competing against them, and then it's decentivizing
It's
play.
a tricky balance.
It's a tricky balance. And I hear what other, like, I listen to other content creators who have like kind of like that higher end perspective, and I get where they're coming from. So it's like it's hard to know exactly how to make that balance. But
And it's
I honestly, I think this is a little controversial, but I think that the rewards for the higher tiers of players should be more cosmetic.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
again,
didn't
it's
they
a
do that
balance.
before?
That's a balance in and of itself, because you've got Eververse on the one hand, you've got the hard work players who just grind the heck out to get their bright dust, and then you have cosmetics versus utility in the game, and there's
Right.
all these
So
balances
almost like
to
an
strike,
ornament,
you know?
like
Yeah.
are you talking at Romance Girl? Like, say if you went flawless, that you got an ornament for your armor piece that made you look amazing, right? Like
Yeah.
have like these
Yeah.
amazing ornaments, not
Because they
the
had like those subtle glows, but I don't think that was like really enough to
No,
just
I mean, you
flash.
have to
Right,
have
because I think-
Eververse
I
silver
think back
quality
to-
ornaments.
to D1,
Exactly.
and there was
But I
like
don't-
there was the Trials cape that was like almost like a cat.
Mhm.
I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
and everybody wanted that one. It's like doing that level.
Honestly, I think
of-
if they just reprised that armor set, that's enough of an incentive. And
Yeah.
if you say that this armor set is only available in the flawless chest,
The Destiny community.
it's not. I don't think that's an unfair thing to say that this cosmetic is only available for the highest tier
Right.
of players.
Exactly. Like
Don't
basically.
make it available for silver either. It has to be.
Yeah, that's
Specific
and
to
that's
this
the tough
activity.
time
Right.
you're going to have doing that to justify.
They're balanced.
But they've been doing
They're
a great job
balancing.
making, I think, content that people want to pay silver for. So I think it's just about, and they have said that they're allocating more sources to armor creation and loot creation in general. So we'll see what comes with that.
It's a tough balance because you got to have cosmetic stuff because, I mean, I have a history of holding up raids even just because I'm like putting on shaders and stuff. So like the Destiny community, we care about the cosmetic thing, but we also want powerful stuff. And nobody wants the powerful loot to be available for money. Everybody's really comfortable with cosmetic stuff only being money, and money only being for cosmetic stuff. And everyone's definitely fine with that. But I think that you're right in that there needs to be cosmetic stuff that is exclusive to some gameplay. And that's what they did
right.
in D1.
I mean, they did
They
that.
even Sorry.
Go ahead.
They even came out and said that they were going to stop making loot that was inspired by activities for silver.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Because that was controversial for a while.
Right.
I remember it back in D1, like when you finished and we're going to be getting to the change in shaders later. I think that was in this TWAB, but remember in D1 when you finished a raid, you got that special shader that you could put on. Glowhoo is the one that comes to mind, right? And
Yeah.
you only got that shader from completing that raid, and you could put it on, and everybody, if they saw you in the tower with that, it was like, hey, I completed this activity. It stood out.
And the
enough.
best part about that is it fixes the balance issues of the, best players getting the most powerful weapons, making it so that
Right.
other players
But-
can't
Right.
compete because it doesn't give them a leg up in gameplay.
I'm going to mention another layer of challenge for the development team here. Sunsetting is no more. And so they have to be extra cautious about power creep, right? And
Yeah.
more reason to put more into the cosmetic.
Exactly.
End of loot.
I feel like I have to agree with that.
And we're
Right, and
flashier sparrows too.
And I feel like this is a good time for me.
Sparrows.
Right, this is a good time for me
go
to
flawless.
Kind of bring
you get
up
the duck horn.
That because I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this with Sooltime over the past couple of weeks, and it's been brought up in a couple of podcasts that we've listened to, and that is having the gear that you get from a certain activity actually help you with that certain activity. And they do that. They've kind of started to go down that path with the raid gear, right? The raid gear has that special slot that allows you to use mods that help you with that activity. And I feel like they need to do more of that with all the armor sets, so that like when I go, say, to do an activity on the moon, like say I'm going to go do the Altars of Sorrow, or I'm going to go
Salliebug, I'm going to have to disagree with you completely here. I do not want more activity-specific mods, meaning I would have to change my mod layout every time I'm changing an activity, which I agree that some people already do.
Well, I think that, I mean, you can have both, right? We're going to have like transmog system, right? So that you could have
You can have several armor
gear.
sets. Oh, I've got my moon armor set.
It's not called transmog anymore. I'm sorry. What's it called?
Armor synthesis.
Armor synthesis. So you will be able to like change the look. It sounds like you would be able to change the look of your whatever your gear.
Yeah,
looks
I
like.
already have that's just going to be able for me to be able to change my look, because I just ignore the way I look right now.
Right. What I was thinking more is less of the add more mods when you go down and do an activity. And I was thinking more along the lines of, if I put on my Dream Bank gear, because I happen to be going down to the moon, that there's intrinsic perks for wearing gear that's from that activity.
Yeah, I hate it when they do that. Like this whole wear 4 pieces of seasonal armor. And then you forget to put it on. I see where you're coming from, how it's a neat idea. I'm just going to respectfully disagree. Just because I'm the person who always forgets to change the armor, change out to what I need to be wearing.
Now,
I also,
Romance Girl, just really quick, what if they introduced a sort of in-game system that would automatically switch out a loadout, almost like you have in Dim, but it's in-game, so you can create up to like maybe 5 loadouts from 5 armor sets or whatever. So you wouldn't have to do that
for the wider community. That'd be healthier for the community. It just, for my specific gameplay, I really am like wanting to like load in and just play.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's like, and you also have to use an SMG or you're making no progress this week, I'm like, God, I have to change my loadout again.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
no,
I guess
that's where I am right now.
I guess, and maybe, and you know, this is coming from someone, let's keep in mind, remember, like this is coming from someone who deleted all of her armor sets except for 1 or 2. It was so freeing to just say, I'm only going to have these 1 or 2 armor sets. I have the resources to masterwork one of them. So one of them will be my masterworked one, and one of them will just be the other one that maybe I'll be able to masterwork eventually. So this is definitely coming from someone who my gameplay is actually more the way your gameplay is, Romance Girl. It's like I put on 1 set. I have like basically 1 set of masterworked armor, and that's all I use, regardless of what
it will
I'm
be
doing.
Interesting to see how that changes when we have armor synthesis, like how they will change how armor functions in general.
Right.
Yeah, I'm ready for it to change too.
I guess in my mind, it was like, well, since that is my gameplay, it's like, is there something that would incentivize me to actually to care more about different armor that's coming? Like, Ada One is going to be selling like some random armor gear. And it's like, what is going to be my incentive to go down and get that? Because I'm not one who.
It sounds like that might be
looks-
mostly a catch-up mechanic.
Yeah, for
At
newer
the
players.
People
That's
who
what I
don't
was
have
thinking.
The
Oh, and for
gear.
people who are collectors, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
To say,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I've collected that armor set.
Right.
But I just feel like it would be nice to have an incentive to say, there's a reason why you should have. The
I
Green
agree
Bay
that they
set,
need to.
and
That
there should be a reason.
I mean, I'm kind of ready for Armor 3.0. I think that they with armor synthesis, they kind of need to overhaul how armor operates and why we are incentivized to get the next set of armor. I just don't know if I want to be told which pieces to wear.
Right. And while we're on that subject, like, why not have in the artifact, why not just like unlock all those perks and be able to just pick and choose? Like, you could only
She's
have.
going there.
I'm going there. Like, why is it that you have to like reset? It's like, okay, wait a second, I want this one, but now I have to reset the whole thing and re-choose.
Completely
all
agree.
those.
It would be so much more fun for me if I could just unlock all of them, and it's just like they're already there for me to just slot into my armor.
Right. Or if they
When I
really
unlock
want
them.
to limit how many you can have, at least be able to pick and choose them, similar to like we did in D1 style. When
It's
you were
already
changing
limited to how many
the-
you can have by by your armor.
Yeah.
You can't put in too many as it is with how much it costs.
That's
yeah,
they've
that's
already
true.
limited it
Why can't
completely.
why can't
Yeah.
you just unlock them and have them? Once you've unlocked them,
it's already
why
limited
can't you
based
use
on
them?
the slot that
And
it
they actually
uses
talk
and the
about
energy armor.
there being a limit development wise, like memory wise, and getting back to the TWAB a little bit, they're talking about the solution for these perks, these adept weapon perks for trials and nightfall weapons. They couldn't. There's only so many perks you can have before
They can't make them intrinsic in a weapon.
right
They
before things
actually
start
referred
screwing
to it as a
up.
proper. Well, they said a proper noun. They capitalized it. Bad things to happen
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for performance reasons. Adding a perk on top of that.
There's
without
always
taking
going to
one
be
away causes-
constraints and limitations.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the other balancing act, the tightrope.
But I don't
they're
think that
on.
has anything to do with the artifact. I think that's more just from because they haven't really touched the artifact on how it operates that much since season's launch.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think
true.
that
It's just
the
been
problem
there
with the
same.
artifact is it just hasn't gotten any love.
Yeah.
I think I agree with
Right,
that.
since the artifact
Um,
was introduced.
Just to finish up on the TWAB from April 1st, they did, like Stego said, buff the bottomless grief and the celerity. They came up with sort of a compromise solution to give it some more girth, some weight. There are now fixed alternate perks in the left column for both of them, and the bottomless grief gives you permanent plus 30 to the magazine. The celerity is plus 20 on both reload and handling, permanent all the time. So they did look at that. They mention in this the Presage Exotic Mission Developer Deep Dive. Oh my gosh. If you haven't seen it, I would get on YouTube and watch it. It was the best one of these things that, in my opinion, the best one that they've done.
Has anyone
we
watched it?
We loved it.
Wasn't
Oh
it
my God,
great?
it's so good.
It was awesome.
No, I mean not just the content, and I just, it's the best one they've done production wise too. The production was amazing. Finally, it seems like they've gotten Bungie TV. They've either hired people or gotten somebody competent who understands production.
It might be trial and error.
I don't know, man. This was
Yeah,
just
it could be.
a big step forward to me to see the sound was all balanced. There was communication between the developer, the host, the developers that were and artists that were talking, and the people playing the game, doing the walkthrough of the game, there was like real options open to rearrange the layout at the appropriate times. And I felt like I was watching a professional, presentation. Like, finally, I feel like it was Bungie TV. It was like what this studio deserves is to present one of these events without the crackle and pop of a lavalier or what. And they did it remote, which is even more amazing. And it was obvious.
I do know that I just want to give a shout out to the teams for their previous productions as well. I know that you're not trying to diminish their work.
Well, I'm being honest. It hasn't been this good, and
yeah,
like I get it. Like it's an after. I think in the past it was sort of an afterthought. Yeah, as long as we're good as sort of a mediocre quality streamer.
I do not
we'll get
think
the information
that was their approach at all, and I'm going to defend them. And I think, Sooltime, I'm going to call you out. You have had plenty of technical difficulties in the production of this podcast.
I'm not Bungie.
You know how
I'm just an
is.
individual guy who has a full-time job and a family.
Studio,
I'm not Bungie.
And yeah, they've done a lot of hires, but
I'm not a AAA studio.
They're not a AAA studio.
Yeah, they are.
Ooh, are they? I would say that they produce a AAA quality game, but I don't know that I would say that they're a AAA.
I think that
studio.
you are getting way high on your horse, and they are still a relatively small team, and they're still
I feel like I am coming from the perspective of maybe an audio snob and maybe a production snob, because it was just so amazing. I mean, that it blew me away, and I just feel like they upped their game, and kudos to them for doing that in that arena. I mean, the content's always been stellar, and I will never tire of hearing artists talk about their process. That is just my thing. But to add to it, a stellar production, kudos to them. Yeah.
I'm gonna take on the same. I'm gonna take on the
devil's advocate.
Not devil's advocate as much as just like the same perspective as Romance Girl from a non-production, non-audio snob point of view. The others were good. I thought they were very good, and those types of like little things, little production things, don't really stand out to me. So I have always.
I'm not saying they don't stand out to me. I'm just saying that I'm a lot more forgiving and know how difficult it is, and I know that people who are working on those types of things aren't like, it's fine. I just know from personal experience that most times those sort of things, they notice it just as much as you've noticed it.
Right.
They didn't want it to go that way. So that's where I'm defending them.
But
great. But I do agree that great job, great production.
Great production, great job.
And great deep dive.
Yeah,
it was
if
so
you haven't seen it yet,
like,
definitely check it out.
So blown away at the fact that the whole Presage mission was done remote. They put that thing together working separately while together. So
yeah,
that alone, because I know what, like, being a remote and trying to work with a team all at the same time, and all of the pieces that you have to put together while doing it, I understand what those struggles are, but man, that was great.
It went off without a hitch. Mission. I didn't see any flaws in it, and I was just flabbergasted how they were able to pull it off. And it was obvious they did drop a dime on it. They put in an effort, and good for them for doing that. Has anybody done the Proving Grounds Nightfall yet?
Not the Nightfall.
Not the Nightfall, no.
No, not the Grandmaster.
I'm
No.
not sure anyone in our group is actually at the level to even do a grandmaster. Maybe they are.
Well, I don't
know
think
I'm
anybody
not.
in the chat in voice chat
Certainly
right
in
now.
our clan, but
Yeah, certainly
I
we
heard
have some
from our
clan
clan. I
members.
think they did
Yeah,
try it, and
he
it
was a
was
guest-
just ridiculous.
Guest last pod.
They didn't do it.
Yeah. So they talk about that a little bit, how it's entered the Nightfall playlist. And then they sorted some things out, and I remember hearing a little controversy about this. I think it's just a communications thing they had of what was free and what's not free, what requires Forsaken, what requires Shadowkeep, what requires Beyond Light, but also what requires a season pass. Now, I was under the impression that the season pass gets you the artifact and all the goodies on the their battle pass, thing that you progress through. I didn't know you needed it to do. It's my understanding you also need the season pass in addition to Beyond Light to do the Proving Grounds strike.
Yes.
And that's a little break from what it's been like in the past, right? That's like weird.
Well, according to the roadmap, I think it launched first for the season pass players, and I think that the following week it was supposed to launch for all players. I'm gonna have to fact check that, but that's what I recall.
But it hasn't,
from the
is
roadmap.
what I heard, and it's a little
Yeah.
little weird. Okay, all right, whatever. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about free to play. I feel like the more the merrier in this game because of just full lobbies are better lobbies, right? For all activities that require matchmaking or something like that, right?
Yeah, according to the roadmap, it did say on March 30th, Proving Ground Strike enters playlist for all players at the same time that the Proving Grounds went Nightfall.
Okay, so it was just exclusive for season pass holders and
For the
owners
1
of
week.
Beyond Light. Okay.
Yeah, for the 1 week.
Okay, that makes more sense because I was getting PTSD from the old Sony exclusives strikes from D1. Oh, I'm so glad we're beyond that. It's nice to be. And now just going even further with cross save and cross play coming down the line. Flawless triumphs were rewarded for. There's a little bit about flawless dungeons. Oh, they're now awarded on a fire team basis, which I'm a little excited about. This means that every member of the fire team will need to have no deaths during the activity for the flawless triumph to be awarded for each dungeon. I bet you we could do a dungeon flawless. Pit of Heresy. If we, go down with enough Wells of Radiance.
I don't feel confident that I could do any activity flawless. I've grown accustomed to being.
I die for so many stupid reasons. I can't
You
even
died to the
imagine
architect.
for also not dying for non-stupid reasons.
And
Yeah, like
what I
the
like about
architects.
Destiny is
Yeah.
the infinite lives. I remember doing infinite lives cheats all the time as a youngin'. And
in which games?
Super Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. You enter in the old
some
codes.
X-Men.
Remember those codes?
Yeah.
You could,
Oh yes, absolutely.
yeah.
And that was my jam.
God
and
mode.
With Destiny, it's built into it. They want you to have infinite lives.
Right.
And so I've just I've
it's
grown
part of the
accustomed
lore,
to that
too,
being
right?
a part of the Destiny experience, and I don't like the stress of feeling like, oh, I can't die. I'm trying to escape that feeling.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go on to the next TWAB. You still there, Salliebug? You've gone awfully silent.
I'm still here. I mean, I'm
Taking a
in
licorice
this
break.
chat about. And I'm still participating in chat on the armors and changing loadouts and weapons and having to go into each individual piece and how cumbersome all of that is.
Did somebody inform Funnybone of the name of the presage walkthrough? It's
Yeah.
Deep Dive, they call them now, right?
I
Yeah.
said it. They're called deep
Thank
dives.
you. Yeah.
Right.
Changing the weapons, but also I'm just catching up on chat a little bit myself. We are a live broadcast, but you can catch us on any podcast outlet. Usually we're up within 24 hours of this broadcast, depending on how I'm feeling. This week at Bungie, let's fast forward. Now we're just a few days ago. This was the 8th of April, 2021. Let me make sure we're still showing this. So Season of the Chosen has entered its second half. Is that worthy of a sound effect? Let me do it again. Season of the Chosen has entered its second half. There. Yeah, see? It's the power of the sound effect. It makes everything better. It's like bacon. When not preventing wars, blah, blah, blah. You can watch the full replay here of that presage. They mentioned they're tooting their own horn on that presage deep dive, and boy, they should, because it was good. Man, I learned so much too. I want to go back in again and do it.
I'm ready. Yeah,
I'm ready
I want to go in.
Kilts for Kids.
Plus, isn't there still lore that we need to get?
Kilts for Kids.
There's a ton of lore I'm missing.
Yeah, there's lore we still need to get.
I have a ton of lore I still need to get.
I still need lore pages. Kilts for Kids. Now, when I first saw this, I mean, I love the charity work that the studio does and the community as well. But when I first saw this, I was kind of secretly thinking that if you sent in your own picture of yourself in a kilt, that you could, at least be put in a lottery for some sort of reward. There's some really nice kilts on display there. But certainly, if you have the means to donate to these things, it's always a nice cause. And you get some goodies. You get the nice, either an emblem or a pin or something like that. Iron Futures. There's talk of changes coming to Iron Banner. Is Iron Banner this week? I don't think so. It starts...
It was last week.
It's going to start Tuesday, right?
No. Is it?
April 13th.
Yeah,
it was last
Tuesday,
week.
the 13th. I'm looking at the roadmap right now.
wow.
April 13th.
April 13th.
And then the following week, April 20th, we got Guardian Game. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Ooh, that's when they reintroduce SRL, right?
No. That's what I want, but it's not going to happen.
That's misinformation for our listeners. This will be.
Oh my God, we would all love that. But yeah, Iron Banner coming back.
Okay, before we go, I'd like to take a moment to look forward in time. I don't know if you guys are watching the stream or not, but they gave, or you could just look on the TWAB, they gave a nice image of Season of the Redacted is being upgraded. Saladin has some new items up his sleeve. So they have some pictures of these new weapons. A familiar hand cannon. I can't even tell what it is. And a sniper rifle will be joining the fight.
Finally, we got a finally in the chat from our clanmate Ghost.
Ghost is ready for these new weapons, isn't he?
I was gonna say finally as well, but I thought I was being disingenuous because I don't really care for Iron Banner weapons.
Yeah, but these are two new weapons too, making their debut.
Yeah,
how can you say
Iron
that?
Banner is in need of a revamp of the loot pool.
Yeah.
Armor-wise
as well.
And they do say, right? Don't they say they've got armor like coming in the next couple of seasons, like a couple seasons down the road?
It's cooking.
They've got an armor, yeah.
It's in the oven.
They're working on it, which is good. Yeah, it needs a revamp. I think other people have also said they need to maybe consider like either putting other game modes in the rotation of Iron Banner or consider changing up like the control piece altogether. I know they made a change with the matchmaking last Iron Banner, with some, kind of
Spit it out.
just some not so good results.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. You're trying to be nice. I get it.
It's a special version of Control. So would you say that they would need to make a new special game mode with new Saladin voiceovers?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, it's like, I don't really have.
It's like, why even bother at this point? Just shut it down.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
And it's very similar to it's like Trials, right? It's like Trials is the same game mode and people keep going in there, right? So maybe just the refresh of the armor and the weapons that you get from it is enough to revamp it. But
well,
I personally was like, bring back Rift. Like, I loved Rift. That was fun. It was different. Right? So, yeah, bringing back something.
I remember you not loving it as much when you were actually playing it.
Well,
she was good at it, though.
One I really did like? What was that one where you,
she was good at Rift.
Things dropped on the ground and you went and picked them all up?
They recently had that and recently vaulted that. Nobody liked it.
But they
I liked it.
They didn't have it in they only had that in comp, right?
Yeah. Well, not in comp. They had it in the classic mix.
I just hope they figure out a way, like, mix, when you go to community pools, they have the waiting pools for toddlers, parents walking their toddlers around in the water. And then you have for the, the 5-year-old, 5 to 8-year-old, 4 foot deep, area, and then you have the deep adult swim area where the diving boards. I hope that they can somehow make a crucible system that has those different tiers for everybody to hop in and have a great time.
Ranked matchmaking is what you're referring
I want a kid. I definitely want a kitty. I want a kiddie pool crucible. I want to be able to play crucible.
I think that if they make, instead of just having a competitive playlist, if they make a ranked playlist and kept an unranked playlist, that would do a lot of good.
Comp is ranked, right?
Yeah, but those ranks don't count. I mean, a number ranked and something that you can show off in the tower.
Yeah. Dear Bungie, please make a kiddie pool crucible event for my wife. Yours truly.
They did.
I'm not the only one who wants a kiddie pool crucible. I've seen it. I've seen people tweet out about it.
Yeah, pros want it so they
Speaking
can.
So they can shoot fish in a barrel.
No, but the way the kiddie pool one
Montage
would work
City.
is that you just like almost
you wouldn't
like
be allowed in if you have a
right?
KD over 1.
Right. But how did they deal with it? How did they do that with new guys coming in?
Yeah, it would have to be.
That's the only way
you can never weed that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for incentive. And speaking of incentive, I think that they should also have more activity-specific emote rewards.
Yes. Oh, I love those Iron Banner emotes.
Yeah.
The ones that cost silver, or the ones that you?
The ones that cost silver, but I think that they should. I agree with you. I think that they should have some of those be available. To the the ones that we got from beating Spire Stars, like that's just a little flex. Yes,
right. Yeah,
that worked out. So that's touching back on our earlier discussion about what to make aspiring in the game, right? Aspiring content.
And I'm coming full circle, and I'm coming for you, Tess Everest.
All
right. It's like make some of that like really neat stuff like be the aspirational content.
I think it could actually help the Tess Everest economy too, because you're going to have the noobs looking at all these big flashy guardians in the tower, and they're going to say, "Oh, I can never get that," and then they'll just go over to Eververse and buy whatever she's selling instead.
Yeah, but that undermines that undermines the hard,
No, because
flawless
yeah,
reward.
because I'm not saying it'd be the same reward. I'm saying
Okay.
people will be like, "Oh, you're wearing the Eververse version." I get it.
Yeah.
You're wearing
Right.
You're trying to
Yeah.
compete by wearing a shiny Eververse, but
Yeah.
I know that that's just the constellation set, and what I'm wearing is the flawless set.
Yeah, what
Like
I'm
you
saying,
can still have two different
I want
sets.
I want an exotic emote that turns me into like a floating Tanix, right? That's summoning purple rain around me for beating Deepstone Crypt. Or
Yeah.
something like that.
Right.
But I want Eververse to have like, I don't know, I want it to appeal to like the Call of Duty players who they want to have an emote where they like put on sunglasses and look cool. Like I think that like the out of game like sometimes silly, but like just doesn't have anything to do with the game stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That belongs in Eververse.
Yeah.
If you want
Right.
an exotic ornament that turns your dead man's tail into something, I don't know, puts
Like a water
camo
gun or
on it.
something.
It makes it look like they could have used that in Vietnam.
Oh.
You know, then that's what Eververse is for.
The silly
But
stuff.
like the silly stuff,
Silly
the
and
out of-
decorative or pop culture-y.
yes,
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
they could
Yeah.
do
And
it.
agree. And then the ones that are more actual specific to the game mode or the gameplay should actually be rewarded from doing that game mode.
Right, and that's a good distinction to make. I'm not saying if you go flawless, you should be able to like, you know, do the
Go get a flawless-esque
Yeah,
armor
do
set.
the-
Yeah, I hear what
do
you're
the
saying.
latest K-pop dance. Like that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
It has to be like actually related, like you're doing a pose that's related to the lighthouse.
Right.
Mhm.
And there are, right, like the Callus one, there are ones that are very specific, but the Iron Banner ones are ones you actually had to, like the Shield one comes to mind, and you had to actually purchase that from Eververse.
Yeah. Well,
All right, so
let's
move
move on to weapons feature lead Chris Proctor's take on some of the balancing that's taking place. I think they're going to have more to say. They mentioned towards the end of April, but so far they're hitting up the 120 hand cannons and recognizing that they're dominant. So they will now have damage and aim assist fall off distance reduced between 2 and 4 meters based on the range stat. This roughly halves the range buff they received in Beyond Light. So they're just pulling it back 50%, what they boosted, right? On the
Yeah, sounds like
120s.
Yep.
Vortex frame swords. We're looking at you, Fallen Guillotine. They're nerfing it. Okay, full energy,
is
heavy
exactly-
ammo attack costs increase from 4 to 6.
This is exactly the stuff that they need to be doing with.
Sure.
This is when you get rid of sunsetting, because nobody likes sunsetting. It was
Right. It wasn't
Right.
good.
again, like I'm with Bungie when they make these decisions to change things up. Like I'm with it when they say, all right, so if you get a legendary auto rifle with under pressure, then that's Scathe Lock. And Scathe Lock always drops with under pressure. And it's just like I get it. I see where you're going with this. I
You're
can
talking about
get
Destiny
behind
2
this in a little
vanilla?
bit, but it just gets old really fast. And sunsetting
Right.
got old really fast. And this is the way that they fix it. Targeted
Right.
nerfs. There are specific
and a
things
lot
that are
of
the
what the-
problem.
Right, because a lot of the issues that we've talked about in the past with it's like swords just have like this crazy ammo economy where you just like always have enough ammo, and they're changing that as well, right? That's part of the nerf is that it's going to take more energy to do the heavy attack.
Yeah,
It's-
though I
it's gonna
barely
take-
ever use my heavy attack, so I think they still need to nerf swords more.
Right. I use my heavy attack all the time. That's a twirly one, isn't it?
Yeah, but it already takes up so much of your ammo. If you just do the light attack, it usually takes out most enemies in like 2 or 3 swings. So why use the ammo?
Right. Right, that's true.
Unless you're using it on like a boss, I get that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that they should go a step further and nerf the light attacks too, because I can just go in with my sword and just light
Just
attack
do the
for
light
days.
attacks. Well, let's see how this
See how it plays out.
one nerf pass.
Let's just wait and see.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce you to a new character in the game. First name Chip, second name Damage. Chip Damage.
That's not a new. That's not a new character in the game.
It's not a new character, but it's a new
And I will
concept.
shout out
Have you
once
heard
again.
Have you heard of Chip Damage?
I have, because I will shout out once again
Okay.
the television show OKKO, Let's Be Heroes.
Oh,
They actually
okay.
have a character named Chip Damage.
Oh.
Referencing, I'm sure.
Wow.
It's,
That's purely coincidental because
game
I'm
term.
unfamiliar with the show. Certain weapons, swords and bastion, bypass shields by varying amounts, which has caused numerous issues with stasis-encased enemies, encounter mechanics, and other content. So we have removed chip damage from swords and bastion. So what is chip damage? Anyone?
That's when your weapon or ability does some damage to the shield and then chips through the shield and damages their health bar behind the shield before the shield is popped. Am I wrong? Isn't that it?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. They said bypass shields by varying amounts. Okay, I got it. Chip damage.
Right.
All right, and I'll have to check out
So
the actual chip damage.
Think like Skyburner's Oath, like
Mhm.
going through the shields of
Okay.
the Cabal and doing damage to them.
Arbalest
Like you don't
did
just
chip
have
damage.
to take right, and you don't just take out the. It's not just that you're trying takes down the shield, but it does damage.
Gets through it.
Behind the shield.
Right.
Yeah.
It gets some of the damage gets through, even though the shield has
Mhm.
not been broken.
Yeah, it makes more sense if you imagine like you're crunching up a handful of potato chips, throwing it at your enemy. It's like that.
We'll have to do that experiment.
No,
a
it
little
is
later
not. To our
on.
viewers, no, do not listen to that. That was nonsense. That was just a play on the word potato chip.
Oh! I am not very. I'm a little slow on the uptake with the
Chips.
with the sound effects for stuff like that. Okay. Sound effects make everything better. Quick draw. We all know about quick draw. This perk is intended to provide faster swap speed, but it also passively buffs handling by 100%. I'm sorry, plus 100. Not really a percentage. This completely negates the downside of using low handling weapons, such as aggressive shotguns, sniper rifles, hand cannons, which isn't something we want to encourage. Those weapons should have downsides, and working around those completely via a perk is not healthy. We don't think allowing a fast swap to the shotgun subfamily with the highest one-hit kill range is great either. So the handling bonus is now removed 1 second after switching to this weapon or upon aiming down sights.
I got to be perfectly honest. I did not know that Quick Draw it maxed out the handling stat.
I had no idea either.
That is insane. I can't believe that it did that. And it absolutely should go away. I don't think that it should be removed.
Ooh, that's controversial.
After 1 second. I think it should just be gone.
Okay.
It's just straight up better than
I mean, because after 1 second, 1 second's a heck of a long time.
Yeah, what's the point of
in the
snapshot
Crucible.
sights if Quick Draw has that built in?
Yeah.
Right.
Replaced Quick Draw altogether with surplus on new and existing drops of Fellwinter's Lie and Astral Horizon. I don't play enough. I don't know enough to realize if that's what the gravity of that nerf.
Will.
All I know is I
think it
get
will.
killed by Fellwinter's Lie.
I do know
often,
that.
So, right, it's like the shotgun of choice for those who run with a shotgun in the Crucible. So I mean,
I do think it's an issue for all the
Definitely
reasons they're
gameplay.
saying, the quick draw, but I do think Fellwinter's is gonna still be a powerful shotgun. We'll see I mean, it's a wait and see, but in my opinion, it's not gonna be enough because I
Right,
know
that's
that
what I
I
was
die
saying,
a
it's
lot
like-
from people just running at me with Fellwinter's.
Right. I mean, like I said, 1 second is a huge amount of time when you're talking about being in the crucible, right? Like if like someone's flying at me and switching to the shotgun, they've got me killed long before that 1 second passes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're going to walk that back eventually. But I think that with it not being on Fellwinter's and Astral Horizon, that's definitely a good way to go. Yeah, are y'all familiar with Toil and Trouble, the kinetic Vanguard shotgun?
Yes, I love that gun.
That has comparable handling to Fellwinter's Lie.
Okay.
And so if you are familiar with the Toil and Trouble and how sluggish that thing feels in terms of swapping it out to being your equipped, or rather readied weapon, and then bringing it up and aiming down sights, then Fellwinter's Lie is going to start feeling like that.
Oh my goodness. That is a nerf then, if that's the case. Frenzy is getting a nerf. Bonus damage from 20% to 15%. They're trying to open up choices, other perk choices. They think that perks that are harder to activate should actually do more damage than something like Frenzy, and I agree with that, I guess.
Right, because Frenzy just happens randomly. I mean, this was needed.
Yeah.
Frenzy's kind of crazy. We kind of knew that. It's like I have a gun with Frenzy on, and I would notice it's like, wow, all of a sudden I'm just like mowing through without me even doing anything. I'm like mowing through.
And typically what they do with some of these nerfs is they also give it a buff in addition to a nerf. They'll switch something around. It looks like that's what they've done. That's what they're doing with Reservoir Burst. Now increases magazine size in addition to its other effects, but reduced full battery bonus damage from 33 to 25%. So that is a fusion rifle perk, I believe, right? Reservoir Burst.
Yeah.
Upcoming content requires revisiting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a pinnacle perk. It is only available on the loaded question.
Oh, okay.
Upcoming content requires revisiting the power level of a damage perk that can be activated simply by having a full magazine. Then there is a interesting little burger dot here. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. So is that gun coming back? I wonder. In season 14.
Are we talking about Queensbreaker bow? Is that what they're talking about? What
no, loaded question.
They're talking about? Oh, the loaded question.
Or maybe another fusion rifle like Vex Mythoclast. Would make sense.
It could. It might.
Well, Vault's coming back, so
Vault's coming back.
VOG.
Is there? There must be a Vault of Glass fusion rifle.
Well, the Vex Mythoclast.
I mean,
outside of that one? I bet you that's the one that's coming back. I mean, if Vault of Glass is coming back, my guess is that's what's coming back. It's a thought. Anyway, moving on.
And for the next nerf, we have a sound effect lined up for it. It's gonna probably create some tears. The Lament is a weapon that is a clear outlier for sword damage. So for the health of heavy weapon diversity, they're pulling it back. Reduced damage of revved heavy attack by approximately 16%. Note that the Lament retains standard anti-barrier despite removing chip damage. Okay. Still good against anti-barriers. But what do you guys think about hitting this?
If you remove the chip damage, I don't see the point. I'm just kidding. I think the Lament will still be good.
You think it'll still be good? 16% down?
I do.
Well,
I
it
think
still
having
has
an
it. It's still
intrinsic
keeping its
anti-barrier
intrinsic
sword
perk.
is
Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
keeping
it's
its
just
intrinsic
so
perk.
powerful.
Yeah, and again, what Cassia said before, where you really just need the light attacks. Like
Right.
the heavy being a finisher is still gonna finish the champions that we run into in the activities that we run through. And the Lament,
Right.
I think, with this nerf, the Lament will still be able to take care of any champion, regardless of whether it's a barrier champion or not.
Okay.
Right.
And I don't think we use this one as much. The Bastion, since we're removing chip damage, Bastion gets something else instead. We've noticed increased feedback on Bastion and higher than normal usage in, again, PvP. So they're making a small change here, and we'll revisit Bastion later. Intrinsically staggers unstoppable champions. Okay.
Needed that.
Increased spread angle by 13%. That sounds like PvP stuff. Yeah. Okay. Anything else in this?
I would, before we move on to the next section, I would like to acknowledge the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more as being a Monty Python reference, and it's appreciated.
Yeah, there's some Monty Python fans definitely in the development teams, right? We just got the Holy Grail hit yourself on the head with the board emote, which is clearly Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Of course,
and now wink, wink, nudge,
bureaucratic
nudge, say no more.
Wink's as good as a nod to a blind bat.
Okay, now we're just going to get into
photography.
All right. Nerding out on Monty Python. Moving on.
Moving right along here. What were you going to say about wink, wink, nudge, nudge?
Just
that it is Monty
giving a
Python.
nod.
Just that it is Monty Python, and that I appreciate I appreciate their appreciation for Monty Python's flying circus.
Yeah, they definitely reference them often. So
Yeah,
it's like,
and that's the stuff that I think again ought to be in like the Eververse store. That's just like completely out of universe. It's out of the Destiny universe.
Yeah,
It's
pop
silly
culture.
for silliness' sake.
Yeah.
I could use one that with a dead parrot. I'd love that.
Oh, that would be
well,
good.
they did the recent one with the board, like knocking themselves in the head with the board. So
yes.
they'll have every Monty Python emote in there eventually.
Yeah, before Lightfall's end.
Before we proceed here, I'm just going to ask, how are people doing on their seasonal challenges for Season of the Chosen?
Once they said
no, all at once. Let's do
and
this
go to
all
the
at
lighthouse.
You're right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Once they got to the one when I realized there were ones in there that may be very difficult for me to ever do. I was like, well, what's the point really in trying to get them all anymore, except to get my war table all the way up, because those are obtainable for your average player. But
your average,
do the ones that what you can do. Don't give up.
Right. I mean, I haven't given up on them. It's just it did definitely take a little bit of the wind out of my sails when it's like, oh, I can do this. I can get all of them. And then it came up with like Grandmaster, and then having like some PvP ones that might be harder for me to obtain. It's like, okay, so I'm not going to be able to get all of them.
Take this moment to butt in and say that I actually did get the Trials challenge done.
Wow.
No way.
With the help of our good clanmates, Pelham and Nicholas.
Yeah, shout out to Pelham and Nick.
Death Knight. Yes. And I can't pronounce Nicholas's gamer tag. Sorry, Nicholas.
Oh, it's
It's like a band scream.
I think that's what he was probably going for, the banshee scream.
Yeah, definitely. They graciously took me in, and I think it was maybe our third or fourth card that we got the 3 wins. I don't think it was that bad.
Wow, holy
Or
cow.
I don't think we ever got the 3 wins. Maybe we got the percentage.
It kind of makes me
Right.
proud that you were able to do that.
Be prouder, because I also got a few bounties done, and I was able to get a second reward.
What was it?
Wow.
A gun?
It was a Astral Horizon.
Nice. You
With
go,
quick draw?
romance girl. Awesome.
I don't think
feel
it had
bad.
quick draw, so I won't be getting replaced.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear.
So
Good to
bad.
hear
It
that-
was, we got dominated a lot, but I felt like I actually helped in a lot of cases. I got some revives.
Mm-hmm.
I got some kills. So it was, all in all, just it was an okay experience. And I think going in the weekend that they had that challenge up helped, because more people were.
Yeah. More people were.
More people were. Just were.
They were there.
They were there in the lobby, lining up to get the goodies. Well, that's really good news and encouraging for people like Salliebug, who are very quick to lose faith in themselves and the game.
Yeah, I think
think
Salliebug, you just need the right clanmates to carry you through.
Right. I mean, we've got some great. I think one of the things we need to do, Sooltime, is what happens is that you and I try to go in together, and I think that's a
That's
maybe
a
not the
no-no.
better. We need to. It's a no-no because we're like 2 weak links.
Bungie's encouraging us not to play cooperatively.
Not to play together anyway, right? It's like having 2 low-tiered PvP players as opposed to one of us going in with 2 higher-tiered players. We would definitely have a better chance of having some success. So, if I ever get the gumption to do it, I know I have some amazing clanmates I can reach out to. So
they have been very helpful, especially lately, just helping us through these harder modes of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I want to grow up to be like them someday.
All right. I'm going to be seeking them out for potentially doing a Grandmaster or 2 as well, if I ever get to
taking advantage of
25.
their kindness.
Get that. Get your
I
power.
got to get
Advantage
to
of
13.
seems
I've
a
got to
little
get to
harsh.
1325 first, so still.
They're not going to say
from
no
that,
to
but-
her. That's the thing. But she will reward them with
I'm the grandma of the
dippers.
clan. Of course they're not.
What, you're
Grandma
gonna
of
ship
the
them?
clan. Suited for combat seasonal challenge. Speaking of seasonal challenges, is why I asked the question, because I knew this was coming up. This week, we introduced the 9th week of Season of the Chosen Seasonal Challenges. Is it the final? 9th and final? I don't know.
No, are there not weekly challenges every week?
No, I think the season of the Chosen Seasonal Challenges is going to end well before the season ends. I would hope.
Oh, so they given everybody a chance to actually catch up and get them all. if
Well,
they want.
yes. One of the challenges, Suited for Combat, it's called, asked players to defeat targets anywhere in the system wearing a full set of armor, but it didn't clarify that the armor had to be the Prefectus seasonal armor. So this is a PSA. Only the Prefectus season of the chosen armor will grant progress towards this challenge. Good to know. Information. Inactivity in Grandmaster Nightfalls, again, doesn't affect us, but hopefully at the end we get a spring break. Maybe you can try Grandmaster then if I can level up enough. Since the Grandmaster Nightfall was introduced, we noticed some players who can't be revived will eventually get kicked out of the activity. To mitigate this issue, the future Grandmaster Nightfalls players should open their character or director screens and go through their menus to avoid being removed from this activity. So they gave us a nice little workaround.
A little
I like
workaround.
it. A little workaround. I like it. We're investigating a solution.
If you can't
so
fix
don't
the
have to do
bug, just give us a workaround.
Give us a workaround. I'll take a workaround any day. Can we say workaround a few more times? Probably. Dismantle your shaders. This is the one that Salliebug has been screaming about for a week now. Beginning in Season 14, launching May 11th. There's that date. Put it in your calendar. We are overhauling our shader system and how shaders can be applied to armor. Due to the overhaul, shaders will become permanent unlocks. Thank you. Thank you. Permanent unlocks.
We're getting it. It's happening.
It's finally happening.
Absolutely. This is a QOL of the highest
The
degree.
first day I played Destiny 2, I said, oh, eventually they'll change it back.
Yeah.
And here we are, a few years later.
A few.
Better late than never.
And
I
those
have
of us
faith
who
till
are
the bitter end.
those of us
Do
who
you
are
think
running
they'll
out
still? Do you think they'll still go to where you have to apply the shader to every single armor piece, or
No,
will it be more like
they
you
showed
want?
it.
No.
Well, I think there's an apply. There might be an apply all.
apply
function.
all. They're going to
You
have that
to go
capability. Yeah, I saw
to
that
the
too.
yeah, if you go to the TWAB where they released what the
How the
transmog
shaders are
actually
gonna
looks
work.
like, they'll
Yeah.
have an appearance screen where
Armor
you pick
synthesis.
your armor for appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it permanently, all of them become, and all shaders in player inventories will be removed. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Encourage everyone
Oh my
to
God.
this is another PSA. 3 PSAs in a row here. We encourage everyone to dismantle their shaders before Season 14 begins. Again, that's May 11th. To receive your
Yep.
Glimmer and Legendary Shards. So get rich, people. If you have a lot of shaders like me, you're going to be even richer than you already are in those materials.
Well, don't forget you
And
can
don't
go
forget,
to.
you can go to Rahul. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
I got it.
Master
in first.
Rahul does them in 5s, so multiples of
Yeah, in
5s.
groups of 5, but it goes really quick too. So.
But did anybody else
well-
notice this? There are a couple of shaders that he will not dismantle that way. So I've
Yep,
got like a-
I was just gonna say.
Yeah. So maybe
I went.
Yeah, which is odd.
The worst ones that he doesn't take, the Season of Arrivals
yeah.
shaders.
You don't like
that they
them.
cram down our throats with the Umbral engram.
I know.
So I've got like they're
Right.
the ones that I have the most of, and
Exactly.
Rahul won't take
Yeah,
them.
you've got 100 of them, and,
Those
and you
just
can't.
dismantle for Glimmer, not shards. So
Right.
you don't have
Right.
to really worry them hard.
You don't necessarily right unless you really need the glimmer. But the ones that get legendary shards are probably the more important.
What are you willing to do for Glimmer? Are you willing to sit there for an hour dismantling shaders? Because you should reassess how you want to interact with this game.
Right, because you can get that same amount of glimmer by just going and playing the darn game.
Yeah.
What about legendary
I'll do that for
shards?
legendary shards.
For
but not
legendary
for
shards,
this.
I will do it. Yes, exactly.
I'll do it for legendary shards, right, for sure.
Okay, so that about wraps up the last 2 TWABs, or what I've got the capacity to talk about anyway at this point.
Yeah.
The rest is
Oh
all
my gosh.
known issues.
It only took us an hour and a half to get through 2 TWABs. That
Well,
honestly, the TWABs.
In all
they were
fairness, we started
slim.
late, so today.
We did, but we have been. It's been 82 minutes according to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's.
We've been
think
talking. I could use a coffee break.
we're bringing back our coffee break in the form of a new segment called Asher Mears Coffee Interregnum, and as for usual, this interregnum is brought to you by the Paracasual Destiny Podcast. Coffee, a treat in the morning, a treat in the afternoon, a treat at nighttime. Okay, so what's on the coffee docks today? Romance Girl, you want to start us off if you had any coffee today?
Yeah, I had a can of La Colombe coffee. It's a triple shot draft latte.
I wish that was available where we were. Might have to get a case of that from Amazon, I guess. Stock up on Salliebug.
Yeah,
Those Mexican
I wouldn't
coffees
mind
are
that.
good,
Target,
too.
maybe.
I wouldn't mind having some of those, like in
Yeah,
the,
especially with the
in our
warmer weather on the
fridge.
way.
So when you
Yeah,
want like
it's great for emergencies when you just realize you don't have time to brew a pot.
Sure.
Just grab a cold can out of the fridge, And
Lovely.
it really does the trick.
Lovely.
It's nice. We
Stego?
sometimes go with high. Yeah, I also enjoyed a La Colombe this morning. We sometimes go with high brew. It depends on how we're feeling.
Okay.
But the
High brew
La
is
Colombe,
available to us. I've seen it.
La Colombe is a foamy nitrous infused.
Ooh.
Oh, yum.
Now you've really piqued my interest. Like
Cold
those
brew.
Guinness cans?
Yeah, it doesn't have like a floaty
It doesn't
thing
have
inside,
a thing
but it's just,
inside it, but it does have like the sense of a nitrous.
yeah, it's still like when you crack it open, it makes that hissing sound.
Yeah,
A little.
yum.
Draft
Mm.
latte.
It is yummy.
Wow. I'm just doing a little
Keep your
on the
eye out.
fly
It sounds like we're
research.
doing a commercial.
Yeah. Maybe we can get them to sponsor us. Wouldn't that be a great sponsor to have, La Colombe? That'd be a great sponsor.
Yeah.
If we ever get that far.
Shout out to Todd and JP, the founders.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're doing
The
good
little
things.
picture of them on the can.
Nice. Salliebug, what's happening in your universe, which is also my universe, so we could kind of kill two frogs with one pellet.
You mean in my coffee universe?
Your coffee universe, your
I
Asher
feel
Mears
like from the
interregnum.
last time we talked, I'm not sure I had addressed the fact that I upped my coffee game and got a burr blender. I talked about it.
A burr
Did I talk
blender,
about
a
getting
burr
it?
grinder, you mean?
A burr grinder.
Yeah.
I got a burr grinder and I got a new coffee maker and yeah, it definitely makes a huge difference. I did not expect the taste of the coffee to be as significantly different as it was. So the grinder especially is because, you know, those old fashioned just blade grinders, you have that powdery.
Yeah, it's like baby powder.
You have such an inconsistency,
Caked at the
right?
bottom,
to get that right. It's like to have it. So
wide range of particle size.
Right, to have a grinder where you don't have like that powdery, because then inevitably you'd have that powdery stuff that would seep through the filter while you're pouring out your coffee. And
is it a conical burr or a flat burr?
It's a conical burr.
Yeah.
It's a conical burr grinder.
Yeah.
It's so
and the coffee maker is, what's it called?
It's the Red Line MK1, I believe, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was talking with Romance Girl about it. It's in like a automatic pour over coffee maker. So what they do is you pour in the water into a reservoir, like most coffee makers, right? But it heats up the water to the exact temperature that scientists have decided is the perfect temperature for a pour over coffee, and then does an automatic pour over where it kind of drips the coffee down into the grinds like you would if you were doing your own pour over. So it's quite good.
Nice. Yeah, and it does taste
so
great.
We're enjoying it amazing.
What kind of grinds did you use in our coffee today, Salliebug?
We use we're still just sticking with our local coffee roasters, the Carpe Diem.
Yep,
coffee
in North
roasters,
Berwick, Maine.
And
right?
I can't quite remember which flavors we had, like which blends we did. I usually do a blend that makes sure to have. Oh, was it the Java blend, right? That is from Indonesia. Quite good. I would definitely. I am a fan of the Indonesian coffee. The way the coffee beans taste that part of the world. Yes. It's kind of my go-to. It's like earthy and dark and strong. So really like that flavor of coffee.
So thank you to the coffee farmers out in Indonesia.
Absolutely.
Coffee farmers the world over. Support your local roasters and who are in turn supporting them in very good ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And most of them are fair trade. Most of the ones they offer are fair trade.
Well, this has been our first edition of an old segment called Coffee Break. And as usual, brought to you by the Paracasual Destiny Podcast. We enjoy our coffee here. It's what keeps us going on days like today. So, yeah. What's up next on the docket here as we wind down our 30th episode? Wow, 30 episodes. That's a lot. Okay. Salliebug, do you have anything for us in terms of grimoire this week?
I do.
Oh, excellent.
I do.
So can I introduce the next section?
Yeah, introduce away.
All right, I will introduce the next segment. The Paracasual Destiny Podcast presents A Touch of Grimoire. With your host, Salliebug.
Okay, so since just recently we had the second attempt on Zavala's life by some rogue scions, I thought I would go a little bit in depth on who these scions are and why are they trying to take out Zavala. And we found from, if you haven't done the strike yet, the Proving Ground strike, that's where you will see that cutscene. So spoiler alert for the most part. So just keep that in mind if you haven't delved into that part of the story yet. But I thought I'd go into a little bit of detail. Let's do a little bit of backstory on who the Scions are. So the Scions are technically part of the Cabal. They've been kind of encompassed as part of the Cabal, but they are not a Cabal race. They were a race of their own, and they were a very religious race. They thought they could speak to the dead, apparently, and they had this thing, I think it was an object that they worshipped called the Y Goblet, and that they felt like they got their special powers through this Y Goblet, which I don't think they actually did. It was just one of those things where like you worship an idol of some sort. But what happened was to the Scions specifically, as best I could figure out with my little research on the Scions, as best I could figure out, was eventually there were some power-hungry, powerful Scions who tried to kind of like take over the Scion race, which then ended up disjointing the race themselves. So they were like weak and vulnerable, and that's when the Cabal came in and saw, oh hey, the Scions and their powers, because apparently they can, not only are they small and stealthy, but they're also have this ability to talk to each other psychically. And so because of all of that, the Cabal, maybe specifically Callus, but at any rate the Cabal came in and said, yeah, we could actually use them. So they enslaved them, and they kind of became kind of part of the Cabal, not as in their Cabal, part of the Cabal race, but part of, like, they ended up
joining and serving.
Joining and serfdom. Yeah, it's the best way to word it. So at any rate, but the Scions also have, similar to, like, if you look at the hierarchy of, there's a hierarchy of Scions and their abilities. So you just kind of have your regular Scions, but there are these higher end Scions called Flares that have, I guess, stronger psychic ability powers. And for those those Destiny players who played in Destiny 1 would remember what was the name of that strike?
I want to say it's called the Three Flares.
Dust dust something. It was on Mars. Okay, now.
Yeah, with the 3 flares.
Yeah, with the 3 flares, and I remember loving to do those to get the flare capes because I was.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they dropped the capes.
Right, they dropped the capes because I was a
Cosmetic loot, people.
Yeah,
Cosmetic
there's something to be
loot.
said for it. Yeah.
We talked, right? Remember Sooltime? We talked about like how many times you did that one to get the warlock. Was it a helmet?
Yeah, it was a helmet.
That you were trying to get?
Yeah, it was a
So,
strike-based
at any
loot
rate,
thing. Yeah,
we're diverting. But anyway,
Sure.
so that was our first introduction to Scion flares. And then now I'm going to fast forward several years later. The Scions are still a thing. They're still kind of encompassed as part of like the Cabal. But when Kaedel took over the Cabal, one of the things she did as Empress of the Cabal was to release the Scions from their servitude, and that she was perfectly willing to allow them to stay amongst the Cabal and be part of the Cabal, but if they had other ideas and would prefer not to, that they also had their freedom to go about, and that she would gladly give them the resources to go on their own merry way. Before this happened, however, there was a group of Scions Nerul, I don't know if I'm pronouncing them right, Ozlet and Terrazok. I could be pronouncing that completely. I'm probably butchering all of those names.
Well, you don't speak the Scion language, so
That's
obviously
true. And if you listen to the Scions, which we'll hear very soon, that it doesn't even sound like anything that
you're giving away my segment.
But at any rate, if you remember in Season of the Dawn with the sundial, and we had to go after those Scions had decided that they could figure out a way to change time and change the timeline using the sundial in order for the Cabal to actually end up leading and winning the Red War with the Scions as the leaders of the Cabal.
Ooh.
So it was just a basic power hungry, trying to gain power and prestige. So
now were those
these group of these were this. Yep.
Were those 3 Scions, Nerul, Ozlek, and Tazarok, or whatever, however you pronounce it, were they the ones we were fighting in that strike in D1?
No.
Okay.
Those were different. As far as I know.
Okay. All right.
I'm not quite sure, but I
just
think
thought it was coincidental that there were both 3 of them.
Didn't we fight, I want to say a trio in the the sundial.
Yeah, those are the 3 that
those
we
are the
fought
ones in the sundial, but I was wondering if they were the same ones from D1.
If they were the same as the Scion flares from D1, and I don't think they were.
Yeah, no, the
we
names
defeated
of
the flares.
We'll refer to them as the 3 Stooges from now on.
They do have names. They're on this Wikipedia article right here.
Oh, our fact checker is in.
Kolar, Vatch, and Numok. Kolar.
Okay, Kolar.
Vatch and Numok.
Okay, so they were 3 different flares.
Different flares, okay.
So obviously their attempt to change time within the sundial got thwarted by, of course, the Guardians, and there was one other amongst those, because I guess it was a group of 4 of them. The one remaining one, Amtech, who was part of this, I think that's right, Amtech, who wanted to avenge the death of those of her 3 comrades, and she came up with the idea to crash the Almighty into the tower in the earth and destroy it. And of course that was also thwarted by the Guardians.
I thought that was worded by Rasputin.
Well, the Guardians and Rasputin. I don't know if you remember, there was like that whole cut scene where there was a cut scene
Anna
where,
and Zavala.
yeah, Anna got down because, well, Anna's obviously like does whatever Big Red tells her to, right? And so she may be working with Rasputin to prevent this prevent this from happening.
Yeah, that was the whole idea, that we were arming him. But I would give him I would give the AI the most credit, because in the end we waited 45 minutes while
while Rasputin.
I thought it was like an hour.
Almighty.
2 hours.
So
I think it was like a whole day event where we were staring at the skybox.
So we weren't quite sure whether Amtech was actually on the Almighty or how she was involved in that. But now fast forwarding to our current season, where the Scions have decided to try to either again try to avenge the death of Amtech, or just try to continue on Amtech's mission to avenge those other 3 Scions that died during the Season of the Dawn, and enter Yurix. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I do have a piece of lore that I would like Stego to read, and that would be that this piece of lore came from the palindrome. And I'm going to have Stego let you read this, and then we'll kind of discuss from there what's going on, or potentially what's going on.
Me.
Yeah.
The palindrome. Draw, O coward. Yurix waited. She watched her prey cut slaughter through the EDZ. She watched every weapon and muscle rake against their light. She watched her prey's little ghost snicker with glee at the death of dozens. Bleak humor to the undying. They had exercised the same nonchalance as the Almighty bore down to exterminate their parasitic city. Guardians huddled in droves, their eyes trained skyward to watch the destruction of Amtech's vengeance, as if it were some celebratory spectacle. Yurix and her conclave would not let that revenge be swept aside so easily. They remembered Amtech's word. They remembered the brief hope the sundial had shown them. And they remembered the name trailed in curses. Although she and her sisters could not hope to destroy a city, they could kill the man who commanded. She refocused her eye on the Guardian as it loaded a new cylinder into a crude metal cannon. Her trigger finger twitched in contempt as she looked upon the bodies of the Cabal she had used to lure this Guardian into the open. Yurix had once thought of human strategies like hidden blades, cowardly and unwilling to engage in anything but guerrilla warfare and decapitations of leadership. Watching the Legion disintegrate after Gaul's death had revealed truer interpretation. Victory cares not for honor, and headless foes cannot resist. Yurix fired, and the Guardian dropped. Well placed. The words rippled through her mind as another Scion stepped from concealment behind her. The Scion handed Yurix a new firearm, different from her longbore headhunter. It was lined in silver-colored magnetic rails that hissed with arc charge. The carrion light will reveal itself in time. We will wait, Yurix rippled back. In time, a small ghost compiled into existence. Yurix waited as the ghost circled its guardian. She waited for the light to build within it. She waited until her target was sure that its actions could lead to nothing but resurrection. And then she fired. The stunned ghost fell. Joy filled her mind. It is effective, she thought. Gaul was no fool, her subordinate rippled him. Yurik snorted at the name. This is not his credit. Gaul did not invent this technology, but we will learn from his failure. Dispose of them. Use its primitive gun. We cannot leave any trace that may lead them back to us. It is done, her subordinate thought, acting on Yurik's orders. We are Amtek's vengeance. Yurik finished her sister's sentiment, and while she struck from the sun, we strike from the shadow.
So there we have it. We have these rogue scions who have decided to either continue the work of the previous ones and try to gain some control and power of the scions, but also extracting vengeance over the death of those 4 scions whose attempt to change time was stopped by us, of course. Interesting little note here is that Yurik does make an appearance in another part of the lore, and that is when in the Presage mission, in the lore book from the Presage mission, when Kinzik, the scion who goes with Callus to do all of those experiments on that ship, the ghost ship, she is able to actually get the ship from the Cabal because Yurik is the one kind of in charge of, I guess, patrolling that ship and making sure nobody keeping it safe. And so
keeping guard.
Yeah, keeping guard. And so when Kinzik comes up to take it, he said that Yurik will let them go. They'll let them take it. And sure enough, there's like an interchange between them. If you go back to that lore page from that, you'll kind of see that interaction where it's kind of like this unspoken. They're probably talking to each other psychically that we of course can't hear. Us lowly guardians can't hear. But so we had, and so this is like the part where, okay, what are we going to do from here? They've obviously stolen some tech, probably the same tech that Gaul had stolen, in order to cage the light from the Guardians. And so they tested it out on some poor lowly Guardian, and it turns out that it did work, and they gave it a go as an attempt to take down Zavala, and thankfully Crow was able to stop that from happening. Yet we still have a scion who is out and about and part of this group of scions who are, my guess is, just trying to not only avenge and of course this is all theory at this point on my behalf, of not only trying to avenge the death of sisters and their other members of their cohort, but also possibly just trying to bring back the scion race as one a standalone race.
I think I missed it. Is that why what they were doing with the sundial is trying to just go back to the beginning, or closer to the beginning of their race?
I think the original
glory.
idea behind the sundial one was to just get the way I understood it was these Scion players had figured out a way to manipulate time so that the Cabal won the Red War, but the Scions would be the ones at the head.
Oh, okay.
Right, so the Scions would be the ones leading the Cabal. And so I think that was one of the ways that they were looking at like gaining power is to have power, like to be the ones in charge of the Cabal as opposed to the Cabal being in charge of them.
Okay.
And that's it.
Whew.
That's the touch of Grimoire this week.
Well, do we want to hear what the Scions sound like?
I think so. At this point.
Absolutely.
So we like to also follow up the lore segment with a little thing called Destiny Sound Check. And in this sound check, I was able to find some work by a very adept content creator called Aegis Mind on YouTube. And he was able to isolate some of the Cabal sound effects, and I think these are actually taken from the code because they're just very well isolated and high quality, and he also painstakingly categorized all the sounds, and so I lifted the Scions, the sound of the Scions, and I found it to be absolutely horrifying. When you isolate the sounds that these Scions make, it evokes a serious evil that I never really felt in game with everything else going on. So we're going to listen to about a minute of it in the name of time. There's like well over 2 minutes of Scion chatter here, and we're going to listen to just about a minute of it. I will say this: one of the comments on this YouTube video was by Vardis, who says Scions sound like zombies from Call of Duty. I can't comment on that, but I figure I'd throw that out there to any people who are familiar with the zombies from Call of Duty to see if they share that sentiment as well. So let's give the Scions a listen here. And I'm going to stop it there. It goes on and on. Yeah, don't listen to that at night with the lights out, because it sounds like some sort of insect aliens going through an exorcism to me. And we're getting a confirmation in our chat from Richard that they do indeed sound like the zombies from COD. So yeah. Romance? You think they sound like the Jawas?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, they do have that sort of feel to them as well. But I was really surprised when you isolate their sounds. It gives it a whole new sort of mood or vibe coming from these creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, they do sound like little aliens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's
absolutely.
That's I'm sure what the intention was. And once again, shout out to our boy there, Aegis Mind, for putting that stuff up there. I'll link to the the full Cabal sound effects video in our description. Is it time for non-Destiny media consumption before we sign off? I know we didn't do that last time. I know this is probably one of our longer podcasts, but anybody want to share anything before we sign off? Well, I'll go.
Oh,
Salliebug and I have been watching, in preparation of watching Godzilla vs. Kong, we've taken it upon ourselves, like we were doing with the Marvel timeline viewing, to watch the MonsterVerse quadrilogy or tetralogy, if you prefer.
And I should bring up before you actually get started with that is that we did watch another of our Marvel movies. We watched Age of Ultron, and that will come into play when you start talking about these movies, because there's actually a connection.
There are connections between the Marvel movies and these. Who puts these out? It's Legendary and Warner Brothers.
It's Warner Brothers, yeah.
It is, yeah. So we watched the first two out of the four. We watched Godzilla, which was the 2014 interpretation. Very good. And even more surprisingly good, I kept saying, how did we miss this one, Salliebug? Kong Skull Island. I'm a big fan of this movie now.
That's the one I haven't seen.
Oh, you're going to love it.
Oh, yeah,
my gosh.
It's
so
on our
good.
list, and we were meaning to watch it before Godzilla vs. Kong, but we couldn't wait and just jumped into Godzilla vs. Kong.
Right.
Daniel had already seen Kong Skull Island.
Kong Skull Island is very, very good.
Right, and it's just like, again, like they're solid movies, but like the actors that they've gotten, with Godzilla, you've got Bryan Cranston and
just
Skull
amazing.
Island, John C. Reilly, who's just like we're just a super fan. Of his and all of his work. So it was just, but also some amazing,
great music.
Right, but
soundtrack.
A lot is like, who is that person? Who is that person? And then realize like the personnel in
IMDb
especially in Skull Island. It's almost like they share like 50% of the personnel in Skull Island as they do in Age of Ultron, which we had just recently seen. So
so the next two that we need to watch. Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is the 2019, and of course the recently released blockbuster Godzilla vs. Kong. So we're looking forward to the lead up to that one for sure. And that's it from our camp. I think I finished Valhalla, the Assassin's Creed.
All the achievements.
Got all the achievements. Finished the storyline.
Wow.
There is a DLC that dropped, River Raids, that I'm working on a little bit and having fun with that. But probably, as I was mentioning in the chat earlier with Richard, probably going to start revisiting Witcher 3, which I got into pretty heavily already. And I think I've finished the first two town campaigns in that. But probably gravitate back, and of course plenty of Destiny to do. Would love to do a Grandmaster or two before or at least try one before the season is over.
And I chatted a little bit with Romance Girl in the YouTube chat of thinking of delving into Outriders, just giving it a try because it's on Game Pass, and as well
got some
as
really positive buzz about it, some positive reviews.
I said also looking to try the new Ori, the most recent Ori, as well as and she had made a recommendation of Spiritfarer, which is apparently has a cat companion. I was like, okay, well, that sold me immediately. So that is also on, like,
you have a lot
on
of games on your list.
Yeah, there's a lot of games in addition to just doing Destiny. So
yeah, I started a Stardew Valley account on the Nintendo Switch, and really enjoyed starting that and getting deeper into that.
Cool.
I really, when I'm not playing Destiny, I like doing like the opposite of Destiny. So very like slow pace, like life sim type cute games.
Nice.
The cuter, the better.
Yeah.
The cuter, the better.
Yeah.
I like it.
I do hope to eventually get a Switch someday. Maybe my birthday this year. I'll ask.
We'll see. Yeah.
Ooh, the birthday Santa.
Yeah, birthday Santa.
Birthday Father Christmas to our friends across the pond.
What about you, Stego?
Stego, you been doing anything besides Destiny in life and drinking coffee?
The past couple weeks, no, I haven't done that much Destiny in the past couple weeks. I haven't.
Me neither. Yeah.
Really been doing a lot.
We squeezed in Godzilla vs. Kong, though.
We did watch
Nice.
Godzilla vs. Kong. That was fantastic.
Can't wait.
Very,
we're
very
looking forward to that one.
fun viewing.
Cool.
Other than that, it's just exhausted.
Yeah.
It's kind of a busy time.
I'm hoping we can get together sometime this weekend to try to finish Garden of Salvation with.
Well, we'll have to start it all over again.
With
but
Funnybone and
definitely.
C3PO.
Maybe offer to do another raid if C3PO is getting tired of Salvation.
Oh,
right.
No,
I feel like we might actually have have more luck trying to get her through Deepstone Crypt.
Maybe.
Deepstone Crypt, or even.
I don't want to give up quite yet.
I don't want to give up either, but I also don't want to make it so that this is the only raid she experiences just because we're stuck on the boss.
Yeah.
Right, her only raid experience is a continued failed attempt.
Well,
I mean,
welcome to
the other
Destiny.
option too is for a couple of us to back out and try to pull in a couple of our.
Oh, that's true. We could get a
couple of our other clan
pinch hitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might need a pitch hitter.
Richard, we're looking at you.
Yep.
If you're still in chat.
Somebody with large DPS capability. Yeah. He's a good
Absolutely.
ringer, that's for sure.
Yeah, ringer. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, so let's wrap this up because I'm getting hungry and it's getting late, and we have the whole weekend ahead of us and our whole lives ahead of us. I'd like to thank everybody who came into chat, hung out with us, and myself, Sooltime, Salliebug, Romance Girl, and Green Stego. Appreciate all of you coming out and being with us. We broadcast live on YouTube every other Saturday at 11 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. But you can listen to us in podcast form anytime on your preferred outlet. You can also follow us on Twitter at ParacasualP. So until next time, keep looking up. Bye, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.